hopefully you walk away with great insights and we're able to support and serve you as you look to take your agency to the next level. All right, we got the results being shared. Fantastic. All right. So fantastic. So like what we believe is how many of you guys, a lot of you guys weren't at seven figures yet, but how many of you guys have the aspiration to grow to seven figures? Just put the number seven in the chat if that's something you're striving towards. If you're already there, you can put the seven in the chat as well. But seven figures is in the horizon. You want to build that $83,000 a month agency. Gene, Carrie, Jessica, Kevin, fantastic. So it's on the horizon. What I believe, and Yesenia helped me craft this graphic. In order to get to seven figures, there's four key pillars, right? Four things we have to figure out. We've got to land clients, right? And have a process to get clients coming in on a consistent basis. We have to deliver world-class results. We have to knock it out of the park for the clients that we have. We have to retain those clients, right? We have to have systems and procedures to keep those clients paying the monthly fee and sticking around long-term. And then ideally, we want to scale up, right? Which is mean putting the systems, the procedure, and the team in place in order to not have to do it all ourselves, in order to be able to deliver at scale. And what often happens when we're in the startup phase, when we're in the struggle phase, sometimes even when we're already at the seven-figure stage, is we don't have all of the building blocks, all of the pillars that are required. Like maybe we figured out landing clients, but we're struggling on the retention, or we're struggling on the delivery side of the equation. And the reality is, if we don't have all of the building blocks and all of the pillars to build the agency we want, we're going to have a crumbling foundation, right? Something's going to be broken. Just type like broken if you ever feel it sometimes, and not always, but at sometimes where it feels like something's not quite right, something's a little bit broken in your agency. Just type broken if you feel that from time to time. And this isn't an omission that like there's massive problems. I would say even in our agency, Plumbing and HVAC SEO, which did $7 million per year, there's times where it feels a little broken, right? And we're always trying to repair, and we're always going back to those key pillars. And right, sometimes it's a little block, it's a little piece of the foundation that isn't quite right. I appreciate you guys chatting. Jessica says, always optimizing. Absolutely. And then, ultimately, there's things we want to put in place to get to multiple seven figures. But I think for today's session, we're going to focus on the foundation of landing clients, delivering results, retention, and scale. And this is the seven-figure agency roadmap. And I apologize, I stepped away from my mic here. But, these are the things we have to put in place in terms of filling the funnel, landing clients, delivering and retaining, and then ultimately scaling the business and putting those systems and procedures in place. And today we're really focused on client retention. This whole month, or this last 4 weeks, has been around the key things that we have to do in order to retain our clients long term. And so that's what we're going to get into today. And I hope that it helps to kind of zoom out a little bit and look at the big picture, the big things we have to put in place, but then occasionally zoom in a little bit and get really specific with the ideas, strategies, and techniques that can help us in that particular area within the business. And so we did put together a client retention maximizer blueprint that we're going to share with you guys. Just type blueprint in the chat here, type blueprint, and that will be our signal to make sure we send that to you. Whether you're watching this live on Zoom with me, or maybe you're watching this on Facebook, or you're watching it in YouTube, type blueprint, and our team will get a little heads up to reach out to you and send you the link to that. All right, fantastic. And for those of you that are on live, you can hit this QR code or go to sevenfigureagencies.com/client-retention. Or it looks like our team also, Justin Little's just dropped this into the chat, and you can grab it there. Awesome, Whiteman. Perfect. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to get into the client retention playbook. This is a topic that I'm super passionate about, and I just want you to kind of check in with me here. Has this ever happened to you in your agency where you do some good marketing, you get a prospect to say yes, and they meet with you, and you build the plan, and you take them through the sales process, and they give you the credit card authorization form, and you're like, okay, we're off to the races. And then your team, does the work. You build the website, you do the SEO, you put the strategies in place. You feel like you deliver on the goods, you feel like you're getting those clients good results, and then you get the call or you see the email come across your desk where they're saying, hey, look, it's been great working with you, but we're going to go a different direction. Just give me a me in the comments if you've had that experience. Like you feel like, man, we did all the right things. Man, we really delivered for this client, and you're getting the cancellation notice. Paul says me. I would imagine it's all of us. So I should see like at least 30 me's in this particular chat, because at some stage of the game, you're going to have cancellations. And that probably wouldn't be on the session if you didn't. Right? Carrie Long says me, Chip, me at several points. Yeah, absolutely. And losing clients can be disheartening. It can be frustrating. It can be defeating for you, for your team, for your sales confidence. But there are very specific things we can do, very specific things we can put in place to improve retention, right? Am I going to promise you 100% retention? No, because that's not possible. I'll kind of share some of the benchmarks and what you can shoot for and what you can achieve. But I want to give you the blueprint and the things that we were able to put in place in our agency to improve retention from what was at one point like 91, 92% when we were just crossing the $1 million mark. And, we felt like we were doing great work, but we were struggling in a lot of ways. And nowadays, averaging about 97, 96%. So just type me if you want that retention blueprint and some of the lessons, some of the strategies, some of the techniques that we put in place to make that a reality. And I do appreciate you guys engaging with me in the chat, because what's the point of having a live session like this if we're not going to engage and we're not going to participate? So thank you guys so much for chatting in. So my promise for you on today's session is I'm going to share with you a plan that, if followed, will help you improve your retention to 97% plus, meaning you have less than 3% of your clients churning on a monthly basis. About a 9% monthly churn. And so I can tell you, if you can tighten this up just a little bit, it'll make a big difference. Did my video freeze, or are you guys still seeing me? Okay, I'm back. I apologize. My internet's actually down at the house today, and I'm running off a Starlink backup internet. So by the grace of Starlink power, we're able to even do today's session. So just give me a yes if you're still seeing me and hearing me. Show up no matter what. Exactly. Okay, cool. Good. We're working. And when I say I'm going to show you a strategy to improve your retention to 97% or more, that's based on our experience in my agency in plumbing and HVAC SEO. And now we've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of digital marketing agencies in a lot of different industries, from roofing to auto repair to painting contractors to legal. And these same strategies have been implemented by those members of the seven-figure agency, and they've gotten to that level of retention as well. And so this is based on a real-world experience, not just, hey, theoretically, or hey, this just worked for me in my unique hypothetical situation. So when we think about retention, it's always good to have an idea what we should be shooting for. And so just put a percentage in the comments if you're curious. Like, what would be an ideal client retention percentage? What are the good benchmarks I might want to be shooting for? Percentage, if you can find the percentage button in chat for me. Or let me know what you think it should be. 70%, 80 to 90%, 95%. Okay, good. 80. Okay, look, here's the reality. And depending upon how you slice this up, you want to shoot for 97% monthly retention, right? That's a gold standard that you want to be shooting for. You might be able to get a little better than that if you've only got a handful of clients, right? If you've got 2 or 3 clients, you need 100% retention, really. But at scale, 97% is a great target to shoot for. I'll tell you, 95% is actually pretty solid. Like, if you're only churning 5% on a monthly basis, you're doing pretty good. And a lot of agencies would be super happy if they could just churn less than 5%. I would say once you get to more than 95% or less than 95% average retention, it becomes a little bit of a red flag. So that would mean you're losing 6% or more of your client base. You have a higher than a 6% churn. At 10% or higher churn, or a 90% retention rate, is a super big red flag. It just means, hold on, something's off. And it might be the way you're selling, like you're over promising. It might be, maybe you hired a new account manager, or put a new account management person in place, and they're just not having the right conversations. It might be there's something drastically wrong with your deliverable, like your SEO strategy is outdated, or your paid search campaigns aren't working right. If you start to drop less than 90% monthly average retention, that should be a red flag that says, hey, something's wrong, right? So just put 95%. If we can all say, hey, look, we're going to shoot for 95% or higher on an ongoing basis. Just put 95 in the chat if that makes sense for you. All right, Gene says 95. Mike says 95. Okay, good. We're on the same page. We're shooting for 95. We really want to shoot for 97, but 95 should be our new norm, our new average. So when it comes to running agencies and with retention specifically, there's lots of issues, right? First of all, clients cancel. And this is par for the course. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel stressed. I don't want you to feel like, oh, we just don't know what we're doing, because you're going to have cancellations. But above a 5% average, it's more than just, hey, no big deal, we're doing the best we can. You should drill deeper. But I think the other really important reason why retention and focusing on retention is so important is because it can destroy your confidence. I know for us at Plumbing and HVAC SEO, me, Dean, Yesenia, as we grew the business, when the client started to cancel, and tell me if this applies to you, you start to look at yourself and you start to wonder, like, do we actually know what we're doing? Like, are we actually delivering the way that we should? Is there something wrong? And when your confidence starts to erode, your ability to sell, your ability to market, your ability to continue to grow, your ability to retain other clients starts to diminish, right? Because sales and retention is really a function of transference of confidence. It's transference of energy. And so you need that confidence in order to go sell somebody new and get them to come on board. You also need that confidence in order to retain the clients that you have. And so it's really important that you maintain at a high enough level that you can retain your confidence, both for yourself and for your account management team. And we all know if we can't retain, we're like the little hamster on the hamster wheel. Hey, yeah, I've got this great sales strategy. I'm getting these clients, but you're taking one step forward and one step back. The other, like, really important reason why retention is so important, and why I'm glad you're focusing on this today, is in a small niche. And most of you guys said you run niche agencies, and I salute you. I think that's the way to run an agency and the best way to scale. But in a small niche, the word spreads quick, and it can spread in your favor. Hey, people are saying you're awesome, and you're in the niche, and you get a lot of clients from that. But it can also spread very quickly in the negative direction, right? A couple of your clients start saying you did bad work. That starts to spread in the industry. That really hurts your reputation in the marketplace. So ignoring client retention isn't an option, right? We have to track these metrics. We have to put these strategies in place, because if we don't, we won't be able to land new clients. We won't be able to retain the clients that we have. We won't be able to get the outcomes that we're after. And so on the flip side of this, really what we want to solve for on today's session is get your clients on board, make them happy, get them to stick around long-term, kick things off on a really good footing, make sure they feel confident right out of the gates, and then keep them on board for the long term, like as long as possible, as long as it's a win-win, great relationship for you and for them. And when you do this right, you're going to have an agency that can grow, an agency that can scale, an agency that has sustainability. And the last thing I'm going to say, just to kind of convince you that focusing on retention is important, there's a study by Bain and Company, and what they found is that a 5% increase in retention can lead to a 25 to 95% increase in profitability. So, yes, top line revenue is exciting, but profitability is what matters most. And so just a 5% improvement can make a big difference in how much money you actually keep. All right. So let's get into the meat and potatoes here. And if we're talking about retention, the first thing we have to figure out is, well, why do clients leave? And I'd love for you guys to comment for me. Like, what do you think the number one reason clients leave? And if you've read my book or sat through this session and before you already know it, don't put it in because it's going to become obvious because I think a lot of you guys have this information. I'll give you a second. I would love for a couple of you guys to type in, like, why do you think the number one reason clients leave? And if nobody wants to comment, maybe because you've all heard this before, I'll just say it. Most of the time, what I hear is because we didn't get them results, because we dropped the ball in some way, because of ROI, right? Those are the big reasons most people think. And studies will tell us, and if you talk to your clients that cancel and you really drill down, the number one reason clients leave is perceived indifference. They feel like they're just a number, right? They feel like, hey, they hired your agency, they gave you the money. At some point, they believed in you, they believed you could help them, they believed you could bring them to the next level. But over time, they started getting automated reports. They started getting, automated emails. And it just didn't seem like you cared anymore. It didn't seem like you were on the same page. It didn't seem like you were innovative. It didn't seem like you were moving things forward. And so knowing this, knowing the number one reason clients leave is perceived indifference, there's a lot of things we can bring to the table. There's lots of things that we can put in place outside of the obvious. Now, the very best thing you can do to improve retention is make sure you've got great deliverable, right? I'm not saying, hey, send gifts and become best friends with your clients and everything will be great. First and foremost, make sure you got an amazing service. Make sure that you get amazing results, right? That solves a lot of problems. But in addition to that, we can be strategic how we solve for perceived indifference. Give me a yes in the comments if that resonates. Like, just understanding that, yes, results are important, but we also have to meet the clients where we're at. We have to create an amazing experience. And so there's a literal balance here. And I think it's a balancing scale between results and service, right? If you get amazing results for your clients, you get them ranked, you get their phone ringing off the hook, you make sure they're making lots and lots of money, you'd think they would never leave. But I can tell you that early in the agency, Yesenia, Dean, myself, we would have these situations where the client would call in and they'd be like, hey, we're going a different direction. And we felt like we knocked it out of the park for them, but we were so busy working on the work, doing the behind the scenes stuff that we weren't connecting with them. We weren't creating relationships with them, right? And so you can get amazing results and still have client churn. But on the other side of that spectrum, if all you did was create an amazing experience, right? You send them a gift for every one of their birthdays, every anniversary, every life event. You're best friends with them. You know the names of their kids. If you've got an amazing service, but you don't get results, what's going to happen, right? They're still going to be like, hey, I love you guys. I think you're amazing friends, but I'm not getting results. I can't continue to pay for this. So you have to understand there needs to be a balance between the results we get and the experience that we develop for the clients. And so I want to start with baseline fundamentals of client retention. And these are like not experiential things. They're not even service-centric things. But if you get these fundamentals correct, you're going to be setting yourself up for the potential for really high retention. And so first and foremost, focus on impact. Make sure that your service offering, whatever you do for your clients, you're not just doing smokes and mirrors. You're not just, hey, I'm going to post to your social profiles every single day, knowing that that's not actually going to generate leads or generate sales. Create a service offering that is focused on the outcome of, I'm going to make you more money. I'm going to get you better, lead flow. I'm going to help grow your business. So we're focused on impact with the actual service offering. Step number 2, in terms of just fundamentally, when you go wider with your service offering, you're going to have better retention. And so when we started, we were an SEO agency. We literally, our name is Plumbing and HVAC SEO. And so we started with, we're going to build the website, we're going to do the optimization, we're going to create the content, and we're going to get you ranked. And SEO is great. I'm a big fan of SEO. But sometimes you do the SEO work and it takes a little bit longer between when we do the work and when the ranking's happening and when the leads start to transpire. And we noticed clients would cancel. They'd be like, hey, you know what? The rankings are there, or they're not there, and they would want to go a different direction. And so we're like, well, what can we do about that? How can we expand our service offering? What can we do to be stickier with the client base? And so we started doing Google ads, right? We started doing paid advertising in combination with SEO. And this added some complexity to the business. It required more expense for the clients we serve to invest. But what I found is when we started doing more, yes, we had more hooks in the client. They stopped looking just as the SEO agency and more as their full service growth partner. But it also gave us a better probability of winning for the client, right? Because if all we have is SEO, that's a single point of failure. When we've got SEO and Google ads, now we've got multiple services working in tandem, and sometimes the Google ads carry the day. Sometimes the SEO carries the day, but the blended result really helps with retention. And so, if you're just doing one thing, if you're just doing email marketing or you're just doing Facebook ads, by really coming to the market with a more comprehensive service offering, that in and of itself is going to probably increase the amount clients are willing to pay, but it's also going to increase the retention and the stickiness that you have with those clients. Number 3 is be choosy with who you work with. And you get to choose whether you're working with a one-man operator with no budget or you're working with the $5 million companies in your space. And this can make or break the success of your agency. Early on, plumber SEO, actually even before we became plumbing and HVAC SEO, we were plumber SEO. We work with plumbers. And marketing to the industry, we got a bunch of one-man operators. And those one-man operators, well, they would give us a credit card and they'd say, hey, go to town. Hopefully you can figure this stuff out for us. We would do the work. We would get them ranked, but sometimes they didn't have someone to answer the phones. Sometimes it was the actual guy that hired us that was doing the plumbing. And so they didn't have, infrastructure in place. And our retention rate in that pool of clients was super low, right? It was like, some would stick, but most of them would not, just because a one-man operator doesn't have their infrastructure in place. Now, when we recognize this, we said, the company's doing $1 million to $5 million per year. It seems they have the money to invest. It seems like they've got the infrastructure in place. I can't believe it, but those clients tend to stick with us long term, and they actually take much less effort to manage than the smaller companies. And so we made a strategic decision around the $1 million to $2 million point in our agency to say, hey, we really don't work with one-man operators. We only work with plumbing and HVAC companies doing at least $500,000 per year, ideally $1 million or more, because they have the infrastructure. Because when they hire us, they'll be able to manage the results. And I can tell you, if you just decide I'm only going to work with larger companies, you'll have less deals out of the gates. You'll have to say no to certain opportunities. But the clients that you do get are going to be the clients that will actually stick with you long term. And so just type choose in the comments if that makes sense. If you get to choose who you decide to work with, and who you choose to decide to work with really can make the difference between a 90% retention rate and a 97% retention rate. All right, Gene says choose, Paul says choose. Outstanding. Again, I just want to hit some of these key fundamentals and the things we discovered that made a huge difference in our retention. The last thing I'll say is you want to set the proper expectations in the relationship. And I know a lot of agencies have set up their model to, hey, look, I'm going to give you a 30-day trial, and then we're going to go month to month, and we'll see how things turn out. I'm going to blow you away. And while that's easier to sell, you've also set yourself up for 1 month to the next, them just being like, oh, you know what? I'm out, right? Because mentally they're thinking this is a short-term relationship, right? And if they're not crushing it every single month, I'm going to pull the plug. Well, if you decide to set the expectation on the front end, hey, look, we're going to come into your business. We're going to do a lot of deep research. We're going to do a lot of foundational work. We're going to build the website. We're going to write the content. We're going to set up the tracking. We're going to, run the paid ads. And in order for us to do that, this is going to need to be a long-term business relationship, right? We're going to invest heavily on the front end. And if you're not willing to commit for at least a year, we probably shouldn't do business. It was a hard decision for us at Plumbing and HVAC SEO to make this pivot. But when we decided to set a minimum 1 year, it made a huge difference in just the mental framing and the mental expectation. So just type year in the comments. If you can think a little bit longer, you can set a little bit longer time horizon with your client base. Has a huge impact on your retention. Let's see, Mazen says, I'd imagine that it'd also be the case the other way around, where these big companies don't want to work with one-man marketing businesses. Mason, not necessarily, right? I mean, these bigger companies, if you can kind of come in and be a strategic, chief marketing officer style individual, you can come in and have an impact and keep those clients long-term. But I appreciate you sharing that comment with us. So those are some fundamental things that we shifted that made a big difference in how we were able to retain. But this is the client retention roadmap. And there's 3 key functions, right? Number 1 is your onboarding. Super important that we come out of the gates really strong. Number 2 is effective communication and how we pulse with the client month over month to keep them engaged, to keep them plugged in. And then number 3 is success management, which is all around how do we put an account management team in place so that we're not the one talking to every client. We're not the one doing every onboarding call. We're not the one taking the after hours potential email and responding to all of those inquiries. Because if you can't solve for that, you're never going to scale past 30 or 40 clients. So just type model if you're ready to get into this. And I'm going to unpack all 3 of these. And this session is going to go a little bit longer than these typically do, but I really want to unpack this for you guys. Okay, model. Okay, fantastic. Yesenia, anything you want to add? I know Yesenia literally was the first account manager at Plumbing and HVAC SEO. She was the one that built our onboarding process and kind of our monthly check-in process. Anything you want to add, Yesenia?
Yes, the attention to clients one-on-one and looking them as people that you want to build relationships with are so key to the process. You definitely want to be that resource that is seen as like the head in your industry, where Josh has mentioned, writing a book and just creating that sphere of influence and coaching them even would be something that you could do down the road as well. But as far as onboarding, definitely doing a welcome box and going through all of the things that you need to collect from them in the front end. Showing them the potential ROI that they can have from joining you. Building that whole relationship in the front end is so key because it will make or break whether or not that person's going to stick with you long term.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so first things first, right? The most important thing when you start with a client is the way you come out of the gates, right? And ideally, you're in your niche. You've got an amazing sales process. Prospect says yes to whatever it is you're sold. They've given you their credit card or their ACH form, and we're going into monthly recurring billing. The moment after that happens, the client starts to get buyer's remorse. They start to think, oh man, what did I just do? Did I hire the right company? Am I in the right place? And the way that you come out of the gates in the first hour, in the first day, in the first week will make a massive impact on whether they're with you a year down the road. And so a couple things you can do to make sure your onboarding is best in class. Number 1 is welcome with a bang and appreciation. And this is so easy, but so often overlooked. Drop something in the mail. Like Yesenia just mentioned, send them a welcome box, send them some goodies, send them something physical. Right? They just signed up for, let's say, $3,000, $5,000 a month, whatever your program fee is. Even if it was only $1,000 a month, they just signed up. And usually all they're going to get is a Zoom meeting, some calls, and some digital files. If you can arrive in a physical way, whether it's with a welcome box or with a box of goodies, that makes you stand out. It shows appreciation. It has an impact. And so, this is as simple as going to sherrysberries.com and sending them a dozen chocolate-covered strawberries, right? And saying, hey, welcome aboard. We're so excited you chose our agency to partner with. We look forward to helping you take your business to the next level, right? That goes such a long way. And I love Sherry's Berries because they exist in almost every market across the United States. and they can usually deliver the next day. And so the recency of I just signed up to now I've got this little welcome thing in the mail makes you feel good. So just type bang if you can be a little bit more assertive with how you welcome your clients in a way that they're not expecting. Like they're expecting you're going to send them an onboard call. They're expecting you're going to have a conversation, maybe a good meeting. They're not expecting to get a thank you basket or a welcome basket in the mail. Number two is we want to try and make the collection of the usernames, passwords, and details as seamless as possible, right? We know most of us, if we're doing a full service digital marketing program, there's a lot of stuff, right? We got to get their Google, their GoDaddy access, their Google map listing, their Facebook, page. We've got to get pictures from them. We've got to get their unique selling proposition. And if this feels like work to the client, it's going to be a problem, right? If you put this into their court and say, hey, here's a 19-page form, fill it out. We'll see you once you've filled it in. That's going to be an issue, right? And I've seen this go two ways. I've seen it go where, the agency sends the form and they just kind of wait around for them to submit it. And sometimes they never submit it and they're like getting billed their second or third time and we haven't even started because, they haven't gotten around to it. The other way is I've seen, they just try and do it all on the phone and like have an hour, 2 hour long conversation. And the client feels like, oh man, I don't have time for this. I was trying to pay you guys just to get this done. Just type me if you've experienced either of those two in your onboarding process, right? It just feels like a heavy lift for them. Absolutely. Matt Mason says yes. So what we want to do is recognize, yes, there's lots of stuff to gather. Yes, we can use automation and have them fill in a form, but we want to try and meet them where they're at, right? We want to try and take as much pressure off their back as possible. And if that means multiple quick Zoom meetings, so be it. If that means you getting on Zoom with the client and calling GoDaddy together and entering the PIN code on the phone and working through it, then that's what it's going to take, right? Because they hired you at a premium rate as the expert because they think you can take the ball and carry it forward. And it's not an excuse to say, well, they didn't fill in the form. Or you know what, I called them up and we went through our onboarding call, but there were 6 items that were pending and I didn't get everything. We need to be the experts. We need to be the ones that can help problem solve and move these things forward. So we want to try and make this as seamless as possible. Number 3 is we want to map out the first week, the first 30 days, and the first 90 days. There's a great book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Just type E-Myth in the comments if you've ever read it. One of the most foundational entrepreneurial books there is. It's just a fantastic book. Lots of great insights in there. But there's one chapter where he talks about crafting the customer experience. And he tells the example of this hotel that he went to. And he went to this hotel, he pulled up to the front, he walked into the front desk, and somehow magically the person at the front was like, well, hello, Mr. Gerber, welcome. Your room is the suite back here in the left. And when he got into the room, it was already set up. The fire was on. They had a scent that was like his preference. They remembered that he liked to have his sheets set up in a very specific way. And he was mystified by, well, how did this hotel, out of the hundreds of hotels I go to, how come this hotel had such a great experience? How did they know my name? How did they remember all of these details? And what it was that the owner of the hotel crafted that experience. They played customer. They were like, okay, what's it going to be like when somebody comes in? And they trained the person at the very front to call into the front desk and say, hey, it's Michael Gerber. They've just arrived. And they have a note document somewhere with all the details about the last time Michael Gerber was there and how he likes to have his room set up and the specific type of beverage that he likes to have out. And what I want to encourage you guys to do is to craft that experience and be super intentional with the touch points that your clients experience. Just type experience in the comments here. If you can be a little bit more creative, you go a little bit deeper with how you craft those touch points, how they're going to engage with you either on email or on Zoom or on the various touch points throughout the process. Fantastic. Number 4 is we want to make sure that we engineer quick wins. If you do this right, the client signs up. Right after they sign up, they're on an onboard call or the onboard call is scheduled. They get a package in the mail, welcoming them. They're surprised and delighted. They feel really good about where things are headed. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to give you unlimited grace, right? You've got to deliver the goods. And I think a lot of us with our service offerings, myself included at Plumbing and HVAC SEO, we would wind up doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So I've got to set up the website. We got to claim the directory. We got to create this content, and eventually the client's going to start to, see some results, but it may be 30 days, 60 days down the track before they start to see lead flow. And so what I would encourage you is be intentional with engineering quick wins. What are things that you could do in the first week that you could actually start to get some phone calls, actually start to get some leads in play? And some of the strategies we've been able to implement was, turning on a paid search campaign within the first week and starting to drive some traffic that can start to drive some phone calls. We've played around with doing database reactivation, which is getting their past customer base, loading it into our high-level conversion app, and sending an offer out. There's very specific things that you can do if you're intentional about it to, maybe not have a home run outcome for the client, but in addition to the experience, in addition to the work that's being done behind the scenes, give them some tangible wins that can make all the difference in how they feel about the direction of the relationship. So just type wins. If we can engineer some quick wins and figure out how to give them, something to sink their teeth into earlier as opposed to later in the process. Love it. And then number 5 is we want to communicate every step of the way. I tell this because I know a lot of you have an amazing project management platform behind the scenes, right? What is your project? Are you using ClickUp? Are you using Basecamp? Are you using Asana? Let me know what project management system you guys use today. Notion and ClickUp, great. Custom built bin, that's fantastic. Nicely done. Basecamp, all right. So most of you guys have these beautiful engineered project plans. Client signs up, we're gonna do this. Claim Google Maps, set up call tracking, order, website design comp, right? And there's this million list of tasks, and either you or the team are, they're doing the stuff, right? They're cranking these things out. And oftentimes we keep that behind the veil of what the client sees. So from the client's perspective, all they're seeing is, I gave you my credit card, I had a Zoom meeting, I got a couple of emails, and then I'm kind of sitting back. Maybe I get one meeting every couple of weeks, but I don't really know what's going on. And oftentimes to the client, that feels like radio silence. It feels like, well, I don't know what's going on over there. I hope they're actually doing something. And then they start to pipe up. Hey, what's going on over there? Hey, you guys, what's going on? How long until this thing rings? How long until this website comes up? And what I would encourage you to do is communicate every step of the way. Think of it like an accordion, like it kind of flexes and it expands. And when you're early in your relationship with the client, you want to be hyper on top of your communication. Like, as opposed to if you're going to move to a monthly communication flow with the client over time, why not make sure you're communicating with them every week? Why not make sure they get a little message? Hey, by the way, we just did this. Hey, by the way, this just got done. Hey, by the way, this just got implemented. We want to over communicate in the first couple of weeks. I'd rather than be like, chill out. You've already told me so many things. I know exactly what's going on. Than them feel like it's been a month and they don't really understand what's going on. They don't feel like anything is in play. And what's cool is with most of these project management systems these days, as those tasks are knocked off, we can set up some automations. We could send a quick message. We can have an email template or text message template that goes out as certain tasks get accomplished, so that it takes a little bit of the burden off you or your account management team to send those check-ins. So those are the 5 key steps. And when you think about your onboarding process, like what's one thing you feel like you can take away from that maybe you can put in place to get better outcomes right out of the gates? Let me know something that resonated with you on that in the chat. I'll pause. I appreciate you guys engaging in the chat. You guys have been wonderful so far. Surprise and delight, says Paul. Gene says updating them every step of the way. Jessica says highlighting quick wins more often. Gifts and packages, says Chip. Fantastic. I'm gonna rapid fire through this, but I want you guys to think, mapping up that experience every step of the way. Once they sign up, have a video. Hey, welcome aboard. So excited to have you. Fill in this form below to get us all the details that we need. We're going to need you to fill this in. I would also encourage you in that transition from sales to account management, the sooner they can have the onboard call scheduled, the better they feel, right? Because until that's scheduled, they're like, I don't know what's next. Am I going to get an email? What do I do when I click the email? Maybe the email goes to spam. And so I would encourage you to have a process where, okay, deal is signed. They just give me the credit card authorization form. We're pulling up a calendar and we're picking a time on the schedule with our launch coordinator, or we're doing a quick connect. Hey, let me connect you with Jessica. She's going to be the person kicking you off. Here's a quick introduction. And the quicker you can do that, the better. And then from a experiential crafting perspective, really think about these touch points over the first week, right? It could be, we're going to send the personal thank you, and then they're going to get their onboard. And then we're going to do a welcome sequence of communications that they get in those first couple of days. And then we're going to have a kickoff call where we gather all the details and we make sure we understand what's unique about them and their business. And then, by the time the third day arrives, they're receiving a gift basket in the mail. And so they're getting lots of great touch points. Maybe within the first 2 weeks, we make sure we launch a paid search campaign. So we know that they're at least going to get some traffic, ideally some lead flow early on. We're going to set up review tracking. We're going to, in the first 4 weeks, make sure they see their website design comp and be like, okay, this is awesome. I like the way this website looks. Review any of the tools that we have in place with them. And then ultimately, maybe by the 6th or 7th week, we're launching the website. But I promise you, if you start to think about these touch points and you try and craft a little bit of experience around each of them, your clients are going to be more engaged. They're going to be more excited about the relationship they have with you. I'm just going to breeze through this. This is our welcome box. You say you did an amazing job putting this welcome box together at the very beginning, and it's only evolved since then. Putting in an actual branded box that's got copy of your book, has testimonials and an overview of what to expect. You say anything you want to say about the welcome box?
It could look different for every industry. You can lean into things that will be useful for the people that you're sending it to. So focusing on not just, throwing in a t-shirt and like something that would have your logo on it, but really be intentional in what can they use in their day-to-day so that you're top of mind with your logo somewhere close, to their screen, something that they use all the time. Again, depending on the industry, but yes, have fun with it.
Awesome. And then automate it. Make sure that you're not physically in the office or in the house grabbing a box and putting stuff in it. You're not in the mail house business, right? And it's tempting. Oh, you know what? I'll set this box up and I'll send it myself. We tried to do it. I've seen other agencies try to do it. Usually what happens, the first client gets the box. The second client maybe gets the box. By the time you get to your 4th, 5th, 6th client, it's like, forget the box. This is too much work. So have it just be part of your welcome sequence. An email goes off to the mail house. Mail house grabs all of the stuff off the shelf and it gets delivered. That's probably the only way you're going to bake this into a consistent process within your agency. Orchestrate the launch call. Really craft out what that conversation should sound like. We do give tons of swipe files around this in 7-Figure Agency. So if you're not a member yet, this is going to be one of the things. We give you the welcome box template. We give you the onboarding call scripting. We give you actually our new client onboarding workflow, which is the sequence of communications that you can customize in the first couple of weeks. So definitely want to consider that. In addition, drop the welcome box, drop the Sherry's Berries, drop something in the mail. That way they get that experience right out of the gates. For a very long time, we used gourmet gift baskets. Still a fan of them. I think today we're more actively sending Sherry's Berries just because it's super quick and people love it. For whatever reason, chocolate covered strawberries, like people love that. It's edible. It feels like relatively healthy and you can get it into their office super quick. So in your PDF workbook, we shared lots of action items here on the onboarding side of the equation. I want you to be thinking as we're going, what can you implement? What will you implement? Aiden, our operations coach for 7-Figure Agency, is on with us. He says you also get the ClickUp template with account management retention systems as a seven-figure agency member. Aiden did an amazing job taking the process and putting it into ClickUp and making it a swipe and deployable asset. So first of all, Aiden, thanks for being on here and taking the time, and thanks for putting that together. All right, step one, onboarding. Step two, effective communication, right? The way you pulse with the client will make or break your retention long-term. And so again, Cliff Notes version, why is the number one reason clients leave? We should all know this if we've been paying attention. Number one reason clients leave is, somebody put it in. Like literally we all answered this a couple minutes ago. If you guys are still here with me, perceived indifference, right? So we can solve for that with how we communicate with the clients and how we pulse with the clients on an ongoing basis. You have to get them results, but you have to make sure that they feel loved, that they feel seen, that they feel cared for. And so this comes down to strategic reporting as one piece of the equation, your communication pulsing with the client, but also how you recognize those change events in their life, how you congratulate them on a wedding anniversary, or you send a sympathy gift based on something happened in their life. You or your account management team should be paying attention to those situations with your clients, and they should be given a budget for gifting, right? And I think Yesenia does this extremely well. And she helped infuse this into Plumber SEO as well as seven-figure agency. Anything you want to say on strategic gifting, Yesenia?
Yes, what we have is our account managers are on social media friending all the clients. Because on social media, people are putting, oh, I got sick, or just an update on their life, on what they're doing and what events they're attending and things like that. And so it gives you an insight to better serve by knowing what's going on. Again, just building that one-on-one personal relationship is super important.
Yeah. And for some of you, having a Facebook group where you aggregate your clients and you're not just doing the service, but you're actually communicating with those clients. You're meeting with those clients on Zoom. That's a great way to get to know your clients better and find those opportunities where they can feel seen, right? And they can feel like, okay, they're doing these little extra things I wouldn't expect. When it comes to reporting, the biggest mistake I see most agencies make isn't not reporting. It actually tends to be over reporting, right? We've got Google Analytics, we've got click-through data, we've got all of this information that we can drop onto our clients. And I want you to just recognize, why did they hire you? What are their desired outcomes? And do they really care about most of the technical mumbo jumbo? Let me know, why did your clients hire you? Let me know that in the chat here. Why did they hire you? And I know there's always a delay between when I ask a question and when you guys are like, okay, I have to actually type something here. To get results and grow their business, says Mike. Exactly, right? For your expertise. I think bottom line, they hired you to help them grow, to help them take their business to the next level. So really what they care about is, how much did I spend with you guys? How many leads did you guys generate for me? And is there a return on investment? Or what is my return on investment? Now, I say that with a grain of salt in that there's two types of clients that you're going to deal with. There's typically, between $1 million and $5 million per year, you're dealing with the owner of the business, right? They're the owner, they're hard charging, they're bottom line results focused. And that type of customer, that's what they want to know. How much did I spend? How many leads did I get? Are you making results for me? If so, just do your thing, leave me alone. There's also, in a lot of companies these days, a marketing director in place, right? So typically when they get between $3 and $10 million, they're going to put a marketing person in place that's a buffer between you and the owner. And that marketing director is going to have a much different perspective than the owner, right? The owner just cares bottom line results. The marketing director is going to want to get into the weeds and say, hey, what did you do? How did you make that happen? What's the data telling us? And so you need to be prepared. You need to train your account managers to be prepared for those two different types of personalities and make sure that you meet those clients where they're at. But I can tell you, when we simplified our reporting from 100 keywords with rankings every single month, pulling up Google Analytics and getting into 19 different metrics, to just focusing on how much did you spend, how many leads did you generate, what's your average cost per lead, and what does that mean from an ROI perspective, our clients were much more confident and they were much likelier to stick around. So I would encourage you, think about boiling your reporting down to something like this, where they can quickly see the outcomes, they can quickly see the results. And so the way I like to think about it is, we're going to lead with the key performance data, right? That, how many leads, how much sales, how much, return on investment. Prepared to have a conversation. Hey, here's where we're headed next. Here's what we're going to be working on as we go. Here's the plan. Here's what we need from you. But then also have the other data prepared, like have your ranking report, have analytics, have your paid search data ready, because certain clients are going to want to get into the weeds. But don't force that data on every client, because not every client cares. And we know that great results alone don't ensure retention, right? This is where the strategic gifting come into place. This is where showing the clients that you care comes into place. Makes a big, big difference. So ongoing communication, at a minimum, monthly call with every single client, ideally on Zoom, right? So you can share screens so that you can show the value, review the progress, rankings, analytics, discuss what you need from them. Hey, here's what we need. Here's what we need from you. More pictures, more data, train a super tech, whatever it is in your particular case. You need to kind of be bringing them into the relationship as well. What we're working on over the next 30 to 90 days. And so here's the thing. We all know we need to meet with a client every month. What percentage of your clients meet with you every single month? Throw a percentage at me in the chat. 100%, every client every month. 10%, like out of all 10 of my clients, one of them is the only one that wants to meet. What is it on average for you? 60 to 70%. That sounds right. Sounds good. I think that's a 6%. Jessica says 70, 80%, 100%, 60%. In the perfect world, every client would meet every single month, right? However, we also know there's some amazing clients that have been with us for a decade that don't want to meet with us at all, right? And we track this. And so we've got all of our account managers with all the accounts, and how many times we touch them, and what percentage we meet with every single month. And I feel like we're pretty diligent. I feel like we're pretty high, tracked and follow through on this. And we're usually somewhere between 60 and 70%. So that means like 40% or more of our clients either don't perceive the value of the meeting, or they don't want to meet with us. And so we had to engineer something to solve for that, because you can't just say, I reached out to the client to meet, I sent them the automated report, they didn't meet, and so it is what it is. Hopefully I'll connect with them next month. That's a recipe for cancellation. That's a recipe for high churn. And so what you want to do is recognize not every client's going to meet with you every month. So you need to put a fail-safe in place. And that fail-safe that we found works really well is shooting a Loom video, not a super long video, but a Loom video at the end of the month that says, hey, Mr. Customer, try to reach out to you a couple times for a meeting. I know you're busy, you got a lot of things going on. I wanted to shoot this quick video just to show you kind of what's happening in the reporting, what we've been working on, what we need from you, and where things are headed next, right? And you or your account managers are trained. I'm going to meet with the client, or I'm going to send this Loom video, and that checks the box, right? That shows, hey, we're paying attention. We have your account. We've got your best interests at heart. We tried to reach out to you a couple times. We sent you this video. Just type Loom in the comments, or whatever platform you wanted to use. If you can, at a minimum, send a Loom video recap to your clients, as opposed to using the excuse they didn't meet, right? They didn't have time for me this month. Aiden does that. Loom says, Karine, Jean says Loom. Okay, fantastic. So if you do this every single month, and what you measure gets done, they'll respect what you inspect. You have to track this activity. It has to be on a tracking mechanism every single month. Otherwise, this activity, even in your best interest, won't get done. But just type yes in the comments if you'll do this. At a minimum, if you're still the account manager, or if you've got an account management team, you'll make sure that you're tracking this and you're doing this on a consistent basis. This has a huge impact on retention. And we've engineered an ideal monthly review call, right? Which is like, what should that call look like? What should the conversation be? What's the agenda? And that's something we give to our seven-figure agency members as another, great resource and a great reason to say, hey, I want some help with this. I'd like to shortcut some of this stuff. We've got these resources for you in seven-figure agency. All right, last thing, and I'll promise to keep this brief because I know we've already gone an hour. Give me some feedback here on a scale from 1 to 10 so far in terms of how you're feeling on today's session. 1 being not happy, 10 being like, this is good, this is solid, I'm getting great value, keep going. All right, cool. I'm seeing 10, so that makes me feel good. Last thing I'm going to say is success management, right? You can be an amazing business owner. You can be great with all this account management stuff, but eventually you have to learn how to hand this off, right? You have to learn how to build the team to manage these relationships. And so that's what I call the account manager advantage, and really building the team around it. Because what I found is if you're the owner and just type account management or AM in the comments if you're still managing accounts, like you still meet with clients and you're the owner of the business, but you still meet with clients and you're still the main point of contact. I think a lot of us, right? A lot of you guys are still in this seat. What I typically find is somewhere around 10 to 15 clients is where you as the owner are going to have to see something give, right? Because if you're still the director of marketing for your own business, you're still doing sales for your own business, you're still kind of overseeing the team that does the work, and you're talking to clients and doing the monthly review parts, the way that you should on a monthly basis, you're not going to have much bandwidth beyond 10 to 15 accounts. And if you're at that place, you're either going to be dropping the ball on the clients that you do have, like you're not available to really follow up and follow through the way that you should, or you're going to be dropping the ball on your growth because you're over here maintaining the client relationships. You don't have time to do the positioning work, to do the webinars, to like really grow the business the way that you might want to. And so recognizing 10 to 15 accounts is when you're going to have to choose, do I grow? If so, I need to hire an account management support, or do I just chill here, right? And it is what it is. I'm not going to grow much beyond this point. As you transition to having an account management team, typically if your account managers are client liaisons, which means they're not building websites, they're not doing pay-per-click, they're not running campaigns, they're literally just meeting with the client, having those conversations, and working through the operations team, they're probably going to be able to handle between 25 and 30 or so accounts on average. So, as you grow, you're going to want to have one account management for every 20 to 25 accounts, right? And this is going to be ideally one of those roles you're constantly recruiting for, you're constantly hiring for, and you're constantly training and onboarding account managers. So, in seven-figure agency, I think it's a little bit outside the scope of what we're trying to do here today, but in seven-figure agency, this is something I really pride, our community on. We've got great training on how do you hire account managers? What's the psychological profile you look for? How do you onboard them? What are the KPIs? How do you track their activity to make sure they're holding the standard that you want for the business? And so, for those of you that are at a level where you're like, man, I'd like some additional support on building that account management team, on shortcutting that process, that's definitely something we bring to the table as part of your seven-figure agency investment, right? For those of you that are thinking about jumping in and getting some additional support. KPIs, though, on your account management side is you have to be tracking, right? And I'm appalled at how many agencies I talk with. They don't know what their retention rate is. They don't know what their churn rate is. They don't track it. And so I want to encourage you, what you measure gets done. What you measure always improves. So you need to have a pulse on what your retention rate is on a consistent basis. And we've got some great mechanisms we can share to help you track your retention. Because again, we want to be shooting for 97% plus average monthly retention rate. 95% would be the minimum standard. So that's full circle. Again, I could probably spend an hour on each of these topics, but high level, right? We've got world-class onboarding, we've got effective communication and reporting, and then we've got building that account management team and understanding where we need to go as we grow in order to free ourselves up to have a team that can take the ball and run with it on our behalf. And